Had some deprogramming, she could be such a fantastic candidate.
What do you mean deprogramming?
Well, she just doesn't, she's never going to resonate with people outside of the bubble that she lives in the very, very far left.
What did they freak out about?
Gender, race, parenthood, schools, homelessness, crime, the border, education. Like we stopped being a scientific people.
Although she hasn't stated it directly, some political observers believe Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez may be quietly positioning herself for a future role on the Democratic presidential ticket. One of those voices is Bill Maher, who warns that if the party rallies behind her in 2028, it could risk a difficult outcome at the national level. He argues his point firmly, offering a critique that he believes deserves serious attention rather than dismissal. Whether you agree or not, his take adds another angle to an already heated political discussion. And before we dive deeper, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. This conversation is only getting started.
And Mandami and Elizabeth Warren. But I can't subpoena the guests. And I can't fix that what the Democrats are scared of more than anything else, I mean, obviously besides gluten, is being primaried from the far left, even though most Democrats are not far left. They're mild-mannered and moderate, at least at my bathhouse.
Bill Maher doesn't shy away from criticizing AOC. He claims she has turned down multiple invitations to appear on his program, and he interprets that not as a matter of timing, but as a deliberate decision. According to Maher, she tends to avoid environments where questions can't be anticipated, the discussion isn't carefully controlled, and the crowd isn't already aligned with her views. To be fair, he suggests that unscripted moments like that can stick in the public mind. Critics often point to a conference appearance in Europe where a surprise question appeared to throw her off balance, a clip that quickly circulated online. For Maher, the conclusion is simple. She's steering clear of situations where a similar moment could happen again, especially on high-profile platforms where the attention and pressure are significantly greater.
One practical thing that Democrats can do right now that would help them regain power, it's never speak to Trump in person. No, I'm kidding, that's stupid. No, it's this. Inspire your moderates to vote in the primaries. Get that base excited. You have the numbers. After Congressman Moulton made his comment about his daughter not getting run over, he added, "But as a Democrat, I'm supposed to be afraid to say that." Well, then change what you're supposed to be afraid of.
Critics say that one reason some moderate voters have been moving away from the polls is the increasing visibility of politicians like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and others associated with the party's more progressive wing. From this perspective, the Democratic Party is seen by some as having shifted away from its traditional image, making it feel less recognizable to certain longtime supporters. Historically, the party has often been described as a big tent coalition that brings together a wide range of liberal viewpoints, with an emphasis on open discussion, individual freedoms, and ideological diversity. However, critics argue that a more strongly ideological progressive bloc has gained influence in recent years, with AOC frequently cited as one of its most prominent figures. In their view, this shift has contributed to a sense of distance for some centrist voters, who feel less represented and therefore less inclined to engage in elections.
Had some deprogramming, she could be such a fantastic candidate.
What do you mean deprogramming?
Well, she just doesn't, she's never going to resonate with people outside of the bubble that she lives in the very, very far left.
Well,
and that, I mean, the New York Times, of all people, the people I've been like squabbling with for the last 7, 8, 10 years, whatever, when I was all about, Democrats have gone too far left, they just put out a huge editorial basically saying exactly what I've been saying.
What, that she's too far left?
Yeah.
At the center of the debate is a clash of political worldview. Critics argue that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has found it difficult to expand her appeal beyond a relatively defined support base. In their view, her messaging doesn't fully resonate with moderate voters who feel disconnected from it, while also doing little to attract conservatives who strongly disagree with her positions. This, they suggest, creates a natural limit to her broader political reach. Bill Maher takes that concern a step further, arguing that this style of politics could weaken the party's chances in a national election. He contends that while her ideas generate strong enthusiasm within progressive circles, they tend to lose effectiveness when exposed to a larger and more ideologically mixed electorate. In a general election setting, where victory depends on assembling a wide coalition, he suggests that this gap could become more than a minor challenge, potentially turning into a significant electoral disadvantage.
And not that the Republicans are probably going to give it back, is to be more moderate. But we don't have to argue about her. I mean, she has...
If people think she's too far left, then that shows another way this country's broken right now.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily broken in that way, but it just shows how the country is not there. That is not where the country is, and if you don't...
Unfortunately, that's the one thing, and I hate to admit this, this country is not as mature as it thinks.
Patton Oswalt appears to suggest that widespread disagreement with the policies associated with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez reflects a deeper problem within American society itself, as if the country is moving in the wrong direction. Critics push back on that interpretation, arguing that it goes too far and says more about the assumptions of a particular ideological circle than about the broader public. From their point of view, it reflects an echo chamber mindset, where opposing perspectives are quickly dismissed rather than seriously considered. Bill Maher strongly disputes that framing. He argues that disagreement should not be taken as evidence of societal breakdown, but instead as a normal and even healthy feature of a functioning democracy. In his view, when people reject certain policies, it doesn't mean the system is failing. It shows that individuals are still thinking independently, questioning ideas, and forming their own conclusions about where they stand.
Did Obama, and clearly the country freaked out. We're still living in that freak out. We are not as progressed and evolved and intelligent as we think we are because we keep freaking out about this stuff.
Well,
you know?
The left freak out too. The left freaked out about a lot of bullshit too.
What did they freak out about?
Gender, race, parenthood, schools, homelessness, crime, the border, education. Like we stopped being a scientific people. Like it's not scientific.
But the left certainly stayed scientific.
Bill Maher often highlights what he considers the most contentious areas of the policy agenda associated with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, including debates around gender issues, education policy, border enforcement, public safety, and homelessness. From his perspective, these aren't just routine policy disagreements, but signs of a broader shift in priorities that many voters, including some traditional liberals, find difficult to align with. Critics, however, argue that positions linked to Ocasio-Cortez can sometimes feel detached from practical realities, placing ideology ahead of what they view as more grounded, common-sense approaches. In their view, this is where a deeper political divide begins to emerge. Maher goes further, suggesting that concern about this direction isn't limited to conservatives, but is also growing among some on the left who believe the movement has drifted from its earlier foundations. He argues that when even internal voices begin to question the trajectory, it points to a broader identity issue that could influence the party's future.
They didn't.
Why not?
Because they think gender bullshit that they went way too far with, that's not scientific.
But how did I'm not trying to. How did they go too far with like gender stuff? And I'm not trying to
instead of, well, if I was teaching children, what I would teach them is there is a default setting for the human being, which is heterosexuality, but that doesn't mean every person is that, and we should completely respect everyone who isn't that. But we understand that that's called a minority, and what makes us a great country is that we respect minorities. We don't think they're lesser just because they're lesser in numbers.
Respecting minority groups and affirming the equal value of every person, regardless of background or numbers, is widely regarded as a basic principle of a fair and functioning society. For many, that foundation is not up for debate at the same time. Critics emphasize that respect should not be confused with automatic agreement. They argue that supporting equal rights does not mean abandoning independent judgment or accepting every claim uncritically. In an open society, individuals are expected to weigh arguments, examine evidence, and reach their own conclusions. From this perspective, problems arise when disagreement is treated as intolerance rather than as a normal part of democratic discussion. They also argue that it is possible to maintain dignity and equality while still questioning ideas and challenging viewpoints. In fact, They see that balance as essential to healthy public discourse. The ability to think critically, scrutinize dominant narratives, and engage in honest debate is not seen as an obstacle to progress, but as something that helps ensure progress is more careful, informed, and sustainable.
That's what they wanted.
Were we teaching that?
Yes, we
When were we teaching that?
Teaching it. It was a law here in California. See,
To teach what?
don't put sex on the birth certificate. We'll see. Now we've passed that period now.
I'm sorry, I don't remember that. I mean,
I know, because it doesn't get in the blue sky bubble.
Wait a minute, I'm not just on blue sky.
I really think that's a lot of it, is that some of this stuff doesn't get in to everybody.
It has been noted by some observers that Patton Oswalt appears surprised by the intensity of recent national debates around gender, which have increasingly shaped political and cultural conversations in recent years. For many people, these discussions have been hard to ignore, influencing policy decisions as well as broader public discourse. What stands out to some is his reaction to more extreme viewpoints within those debates, moments where the rhetoric can feel confusing or disconnected from everyday experiences. This connects to a broader argument made by critics, who say that even within left-leaning spaces, there are times when individuals express surprise at how far certain ideas are taken. From this perspective, concern is not limited to outside critics. It also comes from people within the same general ideological camp who begin to question the direction, tone, or practical implications of more progressive positions.
I'm of a mind, because I remember the African-American community was always saying there's brutality from the cops. Everyone said, oh, that's ridiculous. Stop it. This is all myth. And then cops started wearing body cameras, and lo and behold, there's all this footage of violence towards black people.
There was also a lot of footage of violence that they did on white people, but that didn't make it into videos. You see, nobody cared about that. Not that it excuses the other.
I'm just saying, whenever a minority expresses fear and trepidation and like, hey, please help us, this is going on, I tend now to believe them. I tend now to believe the minority.
I always believe them.
Whenever they say, hey, this is going on and this is really terrifying.
That's not quite how critics frame their concern. They argue that in some of these debates, certain claims can feel overstated or not fully supported by broadly accepted evidence. One commonly referenced example is the participation of transgender women in women's sports. Critics say that when biological males compete in female categories, physical differences may sometimes influence competitive outcomes, which raises questions about fairness in sport. They also dispute the idea that limiting participation necessarily results in significant harm, arguing instead that the effects are often more complex and less clear-cut than they are sometimes presented. From this perspective, the goal isn't exclusion, but balance, finding a way to respect individual identity while also preserving fair competition. One proposal often mentioned is the creation of separate or additional categories for transgender athletes, with the intention of allowing broader inclusion while maintaining the integrity of existing divisions. Supporters view this as a compromise approach that tries to acknowledge all participants while addressing fairness concerns in competitive settings.
If you're saying the left went too far with gender, maybe that was a function of, okay, these people are scared, they're being targeted, and we're watching them be targeted right now. We're watching transgender people be targeted in a very aggressive way. So
we are? Where?
Oh my God.
Where are they being targeted? I mean, like everybody is being targeted to a degree. I feel like...
But not scapegoated the way the transgender people are.
Scapegoated for what? Who's scapegoating them?
Every shooting is a transgender person.
Critics argue that this is where some parts of the left occasionally undermine their own credibility, by broadening real issues beyond their actual scope. They are not denying that minority groups face discrimination or meaningful challenges. Most agree those concerns are real and deserve serious attention. The disagreement, they say, begins when every situation is described as inherently hostile or oppressive, regardless of context. From their perspective, sweeping claims can blur the line between genuine problems and overstated interpretations, making it harder to focus on issues where harm is clearly established. They also warn that this kind of framing can alienate people who might otherwise be open to supporting reforms, simply because the narrative feels too absolute or one-sided. The aim, they argue, should be to address inequality with clarity and proportion rather than constant escalation. A more measured, evidence-based approach, in their view, tends to strengthen arguments rather than weaken them, making them more persuasive and harder to dismiss. Ultimately, the discussion isn't framed as a rejection of progressive goals or the challenges faced by minority groups. It's about balance. Critics suggest that credibility is better preserved when issues are presented with nuance, allowing space for independent judgment and reducing unnecessary polarization. And that wraps up today's video. If you found it helpful, hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.